Hey everyone, and welcome to Quick Review. Today I'm looking at Deponia for the Nintendo Switch. This game has already been released on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, and it's also worth noting that Deponia is currently a 4-part series and the Nintendo Switch incarnation is the first story in the series. I'm not going to dive into how I feel about this, but it is worth noting that if this is a series that interests you, it may be worth looking into what's available on other platforms and what prices are available on other platforms, because at least in its current state, you get more bang for your buck on other platforms. Alright, that's out of the way. What is Deponia? Originally, it was a point-and-click adventure game, however, its Switch port has turned into more of an adventure puzzle game. That's largely because you don't have a mouse to point-and-click with, so it can't really be a point-and-click game. With that said, the Switch controls for this game feel good. Movement is what you'd expect from any game really, and you can carefully select points of interest with the right joystick in the case that multiple items are close to each other. Here's the thing. Deponia genuinely feels like it fits on the Switch. Sometimes ports feel like they're not quite right, but I think that they've done a good job. If I didn't know that this was a port, I wouldn't have ever guessed that it was a port. Port talk aside, let's focus on what sets Deponia apart from other similar games. What sets it apart is its beautiful style and insane amount of detail. The game just looks amazing. There was some stuttering here and there, so it's possible it hasn't been fully optimized, but it was super rare and barely worth pointing out. For me, Deponia reminds me of Pajama Sam. I grew up playing Pajama Sam games. They were pretty awesome. And while there are clearly a lot of sources of inspiration for Deponia, it personally just brings me back to Pajama Sam as a kid. To be clear, I'm not saying it's anything like Pajama Sam. The themes and humor in this game could not be further from Pajama Sam. It just gives me a nice shot of Pajama Sam nostalgia when I play it. Now, the visuals and the story in Deponia are amazing. The protagonist, Rufus, is a bit of a caricature of an egotistical, clueless dude. He's sometimes funny, he's sometimes cringy, and honestly, he just works well. Most other characters aren't given as much attention, and why would they? But even in the short amount of time you spend with other characters, you can tell they all have personality. Deponia is a world filled with great characters. I'd say that's all indisputable, but having a great story and having amazing visuals doesn't necessarily make an amazing game. Are the puzzles entertaining? Does the adventure aspect of the game feel fair? And this is where Deponia falters a little bit, but honestly, only a little bit. For the most part, Deponia sits you down in an area and gives you everything you need to progress to the next area. At the start of the game, you're working through relatively linear puzzles in a relatively confined space. As the game progresses, the search space you have for figuring out how to progress increases, and you wind up with a lot of backtracking. Deponia doesn't really hold your hand. It gives you a few hints at what you need to do, and then you need to figure everything else out by talking to NPCs or just straight up trial and error. Some puzzles revolved around finding items and then combining them with other items. It's not always clear what items will and won't combine with each other. This isn't a problem, but you do have to think creatively a little bit. Like, how do I take the items I have and create a makeshift slingshot? With that said, nothing felt unfair. That's not necessarily because things were fair, but when you're progressing through the world, there's just so much to do that you can wind up aimlessly exploring, almost forgetting what it was that you were trying to do. So, when you eventually do get yourself back on track, maybe you have an epiphany. Maybe you accidentally pick something up that just happens to be what you needed. It might in reality be unfair, but it doesn't feel unfair because you're too busy enjoying the world and the stupid jokes around you to realize that some aspects of the puzzling may have actually been a little bit unfair. That's one type of puzzle, adventure-based find an item kind of puzzles. Otherwise, there are a few more traditional minigame type puzzles that have you solving for various cases, like managing the twists and turns of a railroad, literally piecing a puzzle back together, and a lot more. Some of these puzzles felt slow and tedious. Others were a nice break from the regular gameplay of talking to people and hunting for items. Anyways, that's Deponia. It's a beautiful game that felt like it really fit on the Nintendo Switch. I enjoyed pretty much every minute I spent playing the game, and I loved the stupid humor and the characters that were in this game. I enjoyed the puzzles too, but they felt significantly less important than the world that was created. So, I think Deponia is probably one of the better overall adventure puzzle games I've played. I'm not necessarily going to suggest picking it up for the Switch, because again, it is only the first part of the Deponia story, and for me it felt a little short. It's still a solid game though. Just explore the possibilities of what's available to you before deciding what to buy it for. And don't forget, this is just in my opinion. If you disagree, feel like I left something out, or just want to suggest something else for me to review, leave a comment. I'm going to start doing weekly roundup videos to cover games that are suggested that I can't make full reviews for, so check back every Sunday to find out what you missed out on during the week. Otherwise, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Pop. Ha ha ha. Pop, 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 pop. Oh, 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 yeah.